Yes, sir. We coming in, man. We coming in strong with this one today. How y'all feeling, man? Love and light, everybody. Love and light, beautiful people. Hope you feeling balanced and beautiful today. This is the Life Podcast, and that's with the Y. So this is Learn Yourself, Forever Emerge. And this is the truth and light portion of this podcast where we talk about it, the things that can't be seen but can be felt. The very powerful stuff. And today I just want to talk about a few of the connections that we have because it's such a magnificent thing that we have going on in this thing called life. And I feel like I still see people who struggling a little bit with just kind of getting a grasp on what they really want to do, and their life's purpose and all these type of deep questions. So what are you really here for on the planet? And it's really simple. I keep telling people that this thing is not as complicated as people make it. But moving on with this, just sharing the information of just getting your power back, like specifically you. And so where we want to take this, and before I even dive into this, as per usual, I want you to ignore anything that doesn't have with this moment right here, because this is meant for you to gain from, and you can't really gain if you're distracted or there's resistance or you're not really here focused, right? So with that being said, we're gonna talk about your biggest earnings in life today, and what it truly means to earn something, because it's not this currency system that they have us on. It's not none of that. And today's really special for me because I feel so much of the love today. Like it's Frigga, it's Freya. We got Friday rolling in, that's the day of love, and that's the secret component really. So I have this quote with this channel because it's really hard to marginalize and really pinpoint exactly what it is that we discuss here, because it's such a broad topic. It's life and everything that comes with that. So I have this saying that I think captures it pretty well, and it goes, "Your biggest earnings in life are the connections made on the journey." Your biggest earnings in life are the connections you make on the journey. One more time. Your biggest earnings in life are the connections you make on the journey. Now, what does that mean? Shoot, what's the journey? The journey is you, of course. It's your life and what you are saying here to do. And really, the battery pack behind it. Like, how do you really keep it going? And you rule by the 5 points. That's really how you do it. But before we even get to ruling by the 5 points, you have to really make sure that you're in it. Like, you have to be the centerpiece. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, I want to show you a little bit of things. I'm gonna show you some pictures, but just keep in mind that this is the connection that we're talking about. There's a lot of stuff out here that's very dogmatic, and it's not really there to serve you. It may serve you, but it's not there for you. It's there for somebody else, and you just happen to be siphoning from it, but they're benefiting from it. These dogmatic principles that we have, and these dogmas that they just kind of push onto us, these cultures, these traditions, all this type of stuff, like it's damaging. Especially in the West, where we're not as spiritually based, I would say, like the East. And so, moving along, keeping in mind this is not dogma, and keeping in mind this is how to really get your field in this, because there's so many spaces that aren't even occupied yet. So again, for people who's feeling like they haven't found their purpose, or if they're not doing the thing that really calls them in life, well, that's for a reason. And don't make any mistakes, it's all on you, but have no fear because if you don't see it, just know a lot of these fields today are not really occupied. Like everybody kind of wants to do the same thing, is what I'm saying. Now, back in the day, you used to strive to have something original, is what I'm saying. You used to strive to, have the original outfit, even if people are in the style. But nowadays, everybody's trying to do the same dance. Everybody's trying to make the same hit. Everybody wants the same woman. It's just weird nowadays. But this isn't about you fitting in. This is about getting your power. And just watch how this works, because you have this thing called the human energy field and man's assemblage point to it. Let me show you this picture and let you see it and check this out. Now, this is how you work. This is you. This is how you work. Hmm. This is how you work. And I want you to notice something. I want you to notice how that line is going right across the heart. That is so telltale. Like the ancestors really had it figured out. And they didn't need the science class, right? You have even your chakra system. You got the three on the bottom with a four on the bottom, really, and then the three on the top. But the heart is the center of you. And that shit goes without saying, but you have your navel, so it could be confusing. But I'm going to read this, and it says the vortex of the energy field is called the assemblage point. The position shown is the location and alignment for optimum mental and physical health, organ and glandular synergy. Now, keep this in mind. This is how to get your power back. And if you haven't figured out yet, it has to do with following your heart, because this is what happens. I keep telling people, like, when it comes to this saying and the connections that we make, connections are like chords. So when I look at this picture, man, it just blows it wide open for me in the thought process of just what it all means. I mean, when I see this, it instantly takes me to, I think it was Ecclesiastes 12, where it mentions the silver chords, and it's like, what is the silver chord, right? Now the silver chord, those are your connections. And this is where it takes me. I'll just, for the sake of the context. So follow me here. Your connections are the silver chords that you have to remember. And that's because that's where your power lies. And that's where you can really attain what you need in life. Now, the silver chords, these are the things that, let's say, you really can't escape. You really can't go through life without these. Like I don't know, the food cord, for example. You have to be connected to certain energy sources, your memories. Like there's certain things that if you're not connected to them, your energy field ends up looking a little low, like that picture just showed, as well as the fact that love with the amalgamation point, I mean, that's where your energy's coming from, right? So the opposite of love is what? Hate, fear, death, anxiety, nervousness, all these things that I keep telling people, like, you're not really supposed to be dealing with those stuff unless they're serving a purpose. Like your emotions are excellent servants, but they're terrible masters. So you have to get a master over these emotions that you're feeling. Notice the feelings. Like, you can't see these things, but you can feel them. Now fear, what does fear feel like? Fear is hot. Fear is fiery. What does anger feel like? Like, this is the stuff that burns you out. Matter of fact, fear is fire. That's why they sound so similar. Fear is the fire, and you don't want to burn anything away. Matter of fact, when you're reaching out to something, if you are in fear or in a fire, usually things turn away. It's the love, it's the comfort, it's the nurturement. And that's really with that goes beyond sentience. Like, it just goes to show that anything, you have to approach it with a certain resonance that it's on, and that's the connection. Now, throughout life, we go through this thing where, like I said, with the money system right now, people are big on the money system, but what connections does that really bring you besides maybe some networking opportunities and some investments? Sure. But again, when we're talking about these connections, these are things that they elevate you. They don't just allow you to do something else, which is what currency is used for. They elevate you and keep you in motion because your field is always in motion. You're always moving. And so this chord, give me 1 second here. So this chord, I mean, like I say, that picture, that wave of love, that tells it all. Like, when you deal with things and you hating on things and you have all these negative things to say, that kind of cringes the field. That means you have less connections, because why? You're talking bad about it. You don't want to be connected to it. That's telltale for that. Now, you keep that love, which is why they teach you to, love thy neighbor and love everybody, and this and that. Don't get yourself hurt out here, because I'm going to explain what can happen with that. But I just wanted to be clear that you have to follow your heart for your field to unlock. Like I keep saying, like I said it in the last video. Yeah, you have the security, the creation, the willpower and stuff, but if your heart's not in it, it's never gonna It's never going to get to where it needs to be and stay and maintain and elevate and progress and evolutionize. It's not going to do any of those type of things. Now, your ego is what will take you away from all of that. Like, imagine this: when it comes to the connections, we're on a big globe just floating in the middle of nowhere. So the less we remember, the less we connect and can do, because we're one person each. We can't do it all. We can't do it all. So we can only continue to push one another and ourselves based on everything else that is around us, reminding us what we should be doing, where we should be pushing, or just pushing us where it wants to go. And so long as our heart is in line with that wave, we'll be riding it. And the wave will get bigger. It'll get funner. Big splash at the end. So, like I was saying with the ego, right? This is kind of what takes you away from the love. And let me explain why. Because a lot of people don't really know what the ego is. And the ego, shortly put, the ego is your memories, right? And it's your memories of your feelings. So keep this in mind. Ego tripping takes you away. It's almost as if you have too much awareness, because your ego is the thing that's telling you, like, hey, I deserve to be here too. So it's not like it's a bad thing per se, but when you get too in your ego, you have to remember you're much more than just everything that you've sensed on the planet. Like, your ego is the thing that tells you what you like, almost, in a sense. Actually, no, I won't even break it down like that. I'll break it down like this: your ego is the thing that doesn't change about you. It only progresses gradually through time based on your experiences, but your ego itself, it doesn't really change. Meaning, once you've gotten the experience, that's it. That's it. It's not really there to do much more than to grab a hold. Like, when you're thinking of your memories and stuff, it's what makes you you. Like, oh, I've had this experience. Oh, I've done that. So based on these things, you can't tell me anything. You see? And that's like memory. That's more so like what you remember about your experience, and that's also based on of how much experience you have on the planet. But as I keep saying, you're so much more than your experience here. Like, what about when you're younger or before you experienced any of this stuff, and then you have to go through that trial and experience it and feel things out? Yeah, but at the same time, what is the thing that's telling you that you like it or not? Because remember, the ego is just it's just grabbing a hold of the memories per se. But no, you have something bigger, your soul, something that you're growing towards, something that's already letting you know, like, what you like and what you don't like, in a sense. And then once your ego braces itself against certain things and pushes itself and kind of feels things out, it's your soul that's really aligning with your ego and making that final say so on it. But once you go in and again roll with that ego, remember, you're so much more, and your connections can't grow based on the things you've experienced only, because you have to continue and experience more. So don't get too trapped in your ego. Otherwise, that field will get a little small. Also, the fact that what happens when you make these attachments, because there is a warning, other than the ego, you have to be careful, because even though love is the gateway to life, and it is the portal to yourself, it is the portal to the realities and the destinies that you wish to manifest and seek, but you have to be careful with this, because another thing with fire or fear or attachments, really, that's what I'm diving into here, is love is a sense of strong feeling and desire. So that can bring attachment. And I want to show you what happens when you attach, because the ancestors, they talked about this a little bit as well. And it's not necessarily so good to be attached. That's why the quote says it's about the connections that you can hold, and not just making a bunch of connections for no reason. It's again about the connections that you actually can hold. Give me 1 second here. Got a lot going on. Put this back. All right. So these connections, right? It's about the connect. Actually, yeah, let me just say. Here we go. So these connections, it's more so about the connections that you can hold, and that's why the quote is your biggest earnings in life are the connections you make on the journey, as well as the ones that you can keep. Why? Because here's what happens with life, and it's a strange phenomenon, really. They say that attachments are bad, and love causes attachment. So it's always this paradox with Earth. You need to know that there's always evil with good. If there was no evil, we wouldn't know good. And if there was no good, we wouldn't know what evil was. So there's always this paradox with life. So even though love is the gateway, I want to show you what happens when you dive too deep into love. Because you get attachment issues. So the pendulum swings. The laws of Hermeticism say that the laws of Hermeticism say that everything is in motion. And you should know that by now. Now, keeping that in mind, what would happen if you, as a person, try to be attached? And let's just picture this being another human being for conversation purposes. If you grab and attach yourself, right? Now, this thing has to swing back. Why? Because it has to keep going in motion. So now, if this thing is big enough, you're just gonna swing away with it and probably go somewhere that you're not looking to go because these things are themselves. So they have to go where it wants to go and not where you want to go. Now, people with attachment issues, next thing you know, they have control issues and they want to tell this where to swing to. But the thing is, everything's free. It has to do what it wants to do anyway. So once you get this attachment and the thing has to swing back and you trying to hold on, pull it back, you're either gonna get hurt. If something is having too much energy, like I was saying, what happens when you don't have enough grip and you try to hold on to something? You just fly off. That could happen. Or maybe this thing is so small in energy that when you attach yourself to it, you smother it so it doesn't get to swing back. And now what happens? Now what happens? Now you're smothering it and it's not moving and it's just going to get angry because now you're spending too much time with it. So notice how there's this give and this pull. Just one more time. It has to be this perpetually. Oscillation. You have to keep going back and forth with this stuff. So, like, even though love is the gateway, this is why it's so important to connect to things that don't mind connecting with you because it's less of a struggle. It's less of a tug of war on where the energy goes. And so, this is why, again, the connections that you make on the journey are your biggest earnings in life because that is what's going to actually keep you going. Those connections are things that already love you back, right? Because that's why you're connected. It's a commitment with one another. So follow your heart, and these connections show their face and do what you do with them. Like it's up to you to hold on to them, but know how to navigate it. You can't just clutch it and squeeze the life out of it. You got to let it breathe too. But at the same time, as you're having all these experiences, remember you're always so much more. And the higher self is what's guiding you to these experiences, not your ego. The ego is the combination of your experiences here on earth. And like I say, it's good because it also teaches you based on those experiences that, hey, I deserve to be here just as much as the next person. Like let's say if somebody's coming to hurt you or an animal, it don't have to be a person, but it's just the thing that lets you know you deserve to be here too. But you're not only physical is my only warning. That's all I want to be clear about. You have to remember that you are so much more than that. But without making this too long, I mean, shoot, that's it. I just wanted to remind you. Oh, one more thing too, because what happens with the energy here? I'm telling you, it's all about love. Like, look at this. You notice that this is your energy. When it starts to spiral out, it does in fact make that shape. It's a ratio of 1 point, I believe it's 618, or might be a little off on that, but it's a little over one. And it literally spirals out like this. You have this spiral in many people's hair as an infant on the back of the head. But I want you to notice how this spiral here at some point, it looks like a heart, but only half. So, what I'm saying about how your energy works is when you go and you meet with another energy at that same frequency, that same level, that's when you mesh together and you form the heart. That's the connection. That's what this planet is all about. Us connecting together, learn from what we can from one another, inorganic or not, organic or not, and building with that. But it has to be driven by you, and it has to be driven by this point, like your heart. This is really simple how this stuff works, man. And so, you know, love and light, beautiful people. I just wanted to share something today, and I think that's it. I'll see y'all next time, though. Stay balanced and beautiful.